We have 4 vocab words that we will be using as we work on our weaving. And the first one is loom. The loom is simply the support that holds the weaving until you finish it and are ready to take it off. We are going to be using cardboard looms. They are reusable, and these have seen some service. On the ends, they are getting a little wimpy, and so we will skip over 1 or 2. We won't use the one right on the end. I'll talk about that more in a moment. The warp are the strings that we're going to put on now. And the warp are the up and down strings on the loom, and they hold the weaving together. They are what you go in and out of with the weft. And so the weft is the across strings that go in and out of the up and down strings, the warp. When you put the warp and the weft together and they are woven together, then you have a weaving, and that's where we're going next. I have 3 colors of yarn that are included in my pattern. 2 of them are plain yarns. They're all bright colors. And then we'll call this one a fancy. It has a real thick texture to the yarn, and so we'll call it my fancy. You don't want to use a fancy, you want to use plain yarn for your warp strings. At the end, when we take the weaving off of the loom, these strings will actually be cut and become a fringe at the ends of our little blanket. So here we go. As I start, I'm going to tear some masking tape. Masking tape is also called paper tape, and to tear masking tape, it doesn't have anything you pull against, so you hold your fingers close together and you tear, and then it tears just like paper. And I'm going to put it here on the edge of my table. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 4 pieces about that long. I'm going to do that now because after I begin my weaving, I really won't have hands to do that. Now, this part's kind of fun. I took the edge of the yarn out of the little slit in the side, and I'm going to unwind it several times, and then I'm going to drop it on the floor. And by doing that, it will, as I need more of it, it will flip and flip and flip and allow me to have more yarn without having to sit there and unroll it. This little tag is wimpy on my loom, so I'm going over to the next one. It's a little stronger, and that's where I'll start. I am on one side of the loom. I am going about halfway down, and I'm going to tape my yarn, and I'm pressing really good on my tape. There's a little pigtail left out there. It will hold it a little better if you'll do that. And I'm going up to this other side, and now I am pulling tight. My yarn, it's really tight. And I'm going straight down on my loom, so I've got a straight line on the front. And I'm not looking at the back at all. I'm just looking at the front. I'm going to skip the next tab, and I'm going to this tab. And I'm going to skip a hole and go to the next hole. Each time I go straight down. I'm pulling tight, and I'm going around. You can hear my yarn unwinding as I go. And I've gone all the way across, and I have 5 lines of the orange color. Now I'm going to go to the back again. This is the first time I've gone back to the back. I'm going to, still pulling tight, I'm going to put a piece of tape across that particular piece of yarn, and I'm going to cut it. When I turn this back over, you should be able to hear, your strings should be tight enough that they will pop. If they don't pop, we've got to make the yarn tighter. All right, so I have cut my orange yarn and I am going to tuck the end back in the side. Every time you use it, you want to tuck the yarn back in so that you can always find that end. They get lost in the bunch if you don't do that. I did not mention before, I am standing while I do this. You really want to stand. When you weave, you can sit, but while you're warping, you really want to stand. So now I'm going with my other color. I undid my purple the same way. I'm going to undo it several times and then let it drop to the floor. I am going to tape it just like we did the other one. Does not have to be right on top of the other one, but can be close to it. And I'm rubbing to get it nice and tight. I'm going to put a purple piece right beside every orange piece. Now, I'm starting there, but I think I need to go over one because I don't have anything here to loop it in. So I have to be careful about that if I don't start on the same side. I am going to pull that yarn tight, 1, 2, and so now I'm going back into each of the little places that I skipped the first time. So I'll have every other color. I'll have the alternating colors. And then on the back, you guessed it, we're going to grab that 4th piece of tape and we're going to tape it down. I'm going to snip. Notice that I always hold my scissors parallel to the board. I don't ever point down like this because pointing down, it's really easy to cut a warp thread, and you really don't want to cut your warp threads after you've started your weaving. Here's my purple. I'm finished with it for now, so I'm going to pop the end back in there. My threads are all nice and tight, and I'm ready to start weaving.